It is spooky season, so let's talk about queer horror. My name's Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Like and subscribe if you want to. Okay. Queer horror is a subgenre of horror in fiction. I mean, horror can be nonfiction. Like, let's think about Carmen Maria Machado's In the Dream House. That's technically nonfiction, and I would still call that a horror. Anyway, queer horror in particular, I have a lot of recs for. A lot. But as I'm looking at this, I'm realizing that literally all of these are sapphic. I don't have any Achillean romance. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I need to correct that because how have I I don't read a lot of men-loving men fiction. Like, for some reason, I forget to reach for that. I'm sorry. All of these are sapphic. I will try to read over the next year some more Achillean queer horror and then come back next year with some of those, okay? You can leave your favorites below. So queer horror is a subgenre of horror that incorporates elements of queer experiences, themes, characters into the narrative. And it explores the intersection of horror with being queer. Obviously, what does that mean? So it like delves into the fears and the struggles and the unique perspectives of queer folks. So it's going to use horror as a tool to talk about fears specific to queer folks, often, not always, but often, you know, challenge social norms, things like that. It's a great subgenre and you should read it, and I have some. So technically this would be Achillean, but I don't know that it would be horror is the thing. I don't know. Let's look it up on let's look it up on Goodreads, because Carlos and I both love Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Like, that's a favorite. But I don't know that that's horror. I mean, it's definitely like supernatural, paranormal, and like spooky-ish, but I don't know that I would call it queer horror. And that is what somebody asked me to make a video of, was queer horror recs. Maybe kind of. So that's the only one that I can think of that's not sapphic. So that's a YA. The next one I'm going to talk about is an adult sci-fi horror book, and it's Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. It has a cast of characters though, and some of them are queer, and this book is only going to work for you if you are okay with gore and don't have thalassophobia. 7 years ago, the Atargatis set off on a voyage to the Mariana Trench to film a mockumentary bringing to life ancient sea creatures of legend. It was lost at sea with all hands. Some have called it a hoax, others have called it a maritime tragedy. Now a new crew has been assembled, but this time they're not out to entertain. Some seek to validate their life's work. Some seek the greatest hunt of all. Some seek the truth. But for the ambitious young scientist Victoria Stewart, this is a voyage to uncover the fate of the sister she lost. So this is a 5-star read for me because Mira Grant just knows how to fucking write. This is sci-fi horror, so when I say sci-fi, I mean that Grant like knows how to write science into a book in a way that is actually interesting and serve to enrich the story. This is a book where supernatural meets science, particularly like marine science, and it's a battle for survival. I'm not gonna tell you anymore. So she combines elements of science fiction and elements of horror and creates this sort of like masterclass, which is why it's so well loved, in suspense. And also it is extremely atmospheric. You're gonna feel like you were there experiencing all the horror. But she also does a absolutely masterful work of creating the characters that you're experiencing this journey with. So you have like this enigmatic captain of the ship, this fearless marine biologist, and a bunch of others. And Grant like really skillfully builds their characters and their backstories. Does a great job in having you as the reader form connections that make you like the characters very quickly, so that when the terror happens, you've built the suspense while you've been building your connection with these characters. So when the terror happens, you're just really worried about your friends. So as a reader, you end up being very invested in these people and their fates. It's hard to nail that timing of escalating terror until the climax of a horror book, and this book gets it just right. I realized that I just mentioned this book in another video and I didn't do a good job talking about it. So Sawkill Girls by Claire LeGrand. This is a YA horror about 3 girls who live on an island called Sawkill Rock. Marion is the new girl. She just wants to be loved. She's awkward. I feel that. Zoe, who already lives on Sawkill Rock, is the daughter of a cop. She is feeling very lonely and she's very concerned about her friend who went missing. And then there's Val, who is the popular girl, who is gorgeous and very alluring, and Zoe does not fucking trust Val. Their stories come together on the island of Sawkill Rock, where gleaming horses graze on rolling pastures and cold waves crash against black cliffs, where kids whisper the legend of an insidious monster at parties and around campfires, where girls have been disappearing for decades, stolen away by a ravenous evil no one has dared to fight until now. This is a slow burn horror. It has a sapphic relationship between two of the main characters. You have to stick with this in order for the payoff at the end. It is very slow burn. And also this is really, it's very long for a horror book. It is 447 pages. Like it's long. You have to stick with it. But this is really about the treatment of the agency of girls. There's a line that says, "Girls hunger and we're taught from the moment our brains can take it that there isn't enough food for us all." This scared the shit out of me at one point because there is a monster. It unsettled me several times because there's a lot of parts where a certain main character is talking to the monster who appears to her in different ways, and it's really creepy. But then at one point the monster, I was listening to the audiobook and it shifted into the monster's voice and I wasn't prepared and I almost peed myself. I think this is a really good one. This is like perfect for spooky season. Also, there is asexual rep in this. So if you are looking for ace rep, one of the main characters is ace. Next, The Girls Are Never Gone by Sarah Glenn Marsh. I also have read Sarah Glenn Marsh's other book, Reign of the Fallen, and I tried to read Song of the Dead, which is the sequel, but it was really cringy and I had to DNF. But Reign of the Fallen was really fun if you want a YA fantasy that's kind of dark, because it's about necromancy, but it is also a little bit sapphic and has a bisexual main character. But The Girls Are Never Gone is not fantasy. It is about another bisexual main character though. This is another queer YA paranormal horror, which is kind of what I could say Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas is kind of. This is just, it's such like a family story. I hesitate to call it because it didn't really unsettle me in the way that horror did. It was sort of like, I don't know, it's kind of warm and fuzzy. Like sure, there were ghosts and like somebody's trying to kill people and almost succeeded and did succeed, but like it's also very warm and fuzzy. Does that make sense? Sorry, I'm still trying to convince myself whether or not this is a horror book. The Girls Are Never Gone by Sarah Glenn Marsh is a horror book. Bear Chase is a ghost skeptic, but publicly she's keeping her doubts to herself because she's the voice of Attachments, her brand new paranormal investigation podcast. That's what brings her to Arrington Estate. 30 years ago, teenager Ethelene Bell drowned in Arrington's Lake, and legend says her spirit haunts the estate. Dare is more interested in the suspicious circumstances surrounding her death, circumstances that she believes point to a living culprit, not the supernatural. Still, she's vowed to keep an open mind as she investigates, even if she's pretty sure what she'll find. This book features a bisexual main character, a sapphic relationship, as I said, but our main character, Dare, has type 1 diabetes. Sarah Glenn Marsh has type 1 diabetes and she writes multiple books about it, including a children's book, which I need to remember to get for my kids. This was a 3.5 for me. I liked it. This book would be perfect for those who loved the sapphic romance in Bly Manor and other parts of Bly Manor, but particularly the sapphic part. It has a creepy haunted house, a haunted lake, ghosts from a variety of time periods, so it's very Bly Manor. But the main character, Dare, I liked her. I liked that she's like a podcast runner. Also, she has type 1 diabetes, as I said, but she has a service dog, so that was really cool because I rarely see service dog rep in books. So I thought that was fantastic. I have yet to see, I can't name another book with type 1 diabetes. I can't name any queer books with type 1 diabetes. I definitely can't name another book with a service dog. So readers who share those experiences are going to feel very seen by that in the book, but I was just glad to read it because I never see it, and it was very exciting to like see that representation. The writing itself is great. The way that she described the house is very alluring. It was haunting. It was haunting me just as it haunted the main character. I would have though liked to see a little bit more from the podcast element. That just sort of got thrown by the wayside. I really liked how like Sadie by Courtney Summers did like a podcast type thing. So did the Good Girl's Guide to Murder sequel, Good Girl Bad Blood, I think it was. So that element was really underutilized, which really disappointed me because I love that kind of thing. But other than that, it was good. It was fine. A similar one is These Fleeting Shadows by Kate Alice Marshall. Helen Vaughn doesn't know why she and her mother left their ancestral home at Harrowstone Hall, called Harrow, or why they haven't spoken to their extended family since. So when her grandfather dies, she's shocked to learn that he has left everything, the house, the grounds, and the money to her. The inheritance comes with one condition: she must stay on the grounds of Harrow for 1 full year, or she'll be left with nothing. This is another one for fans of Bly Manor. Are you noticing a trend? Got a sapphic romance, haunted house, particularly the Bly Manor setup where it's like woman living in house less woman who lives on the grounds, except it's teenage girls. And then it's got the haunted house thing going on. But the twist was so good. I was not expecting that at all. And I wasn't expecting this to have like subtle conversations about like agency of women and girls either. That was pleasantly surprising. The romance was really cute. I like rooted for them. They were sort of like reluctantly being around each other, two lovers. It was cute. I loved Helen's love interest, the witchy, lives on the grounds girl. She was very stubborn and cynical, and you know what, bitch, same. Again, the ending, the twist, I did not see that coming. It was very satisfying, which was great because Kate Alice Marshall's books can be really hit or miss for me. Like Our Last Echoes was a book that I really did not like the twist ending of, but this one, Kate Alice Marshall did a good job. I swear Marshall comes out with a new YA horror every year. It's like every year. The next one is extreme horror. It is an adult extreme horror novel. Do not read this unless you have a very strong stomach. It is To Be Devoured by Sarah Tantlinger. That being said, 5 stars. It's really good. Like, I don't dabble in extreme horror very often. This is exquisitely written, like descriptive prose wise, but my god is it disgusting. Again though, 5 stars. I'm gonna give you the synopsis. If you want to skip, just go to this because it's kind of disgusting. What does carrion taste like? Andy has to know. The vultures circling outside her home taunt and invite her to come understand the secrets hiding in their banquet of decay. Fascination morphs into an obsessive need to know what the vultures know. Andy turns to Dr. Fawning, but even the therapist cannot help her comprehend the secrets she's buried beneath anger-induced blackouts. Her girlfriend Luna tries to help Andy battle her inner darkness and infatuation with the vultures. However, the desire to taste dead flesh, to stitch together wings of her own and become one with the flock, sends Andy down a twisted, unforgivable path. Once she understands the secrets the vultures conceal, she must decide between abandoning the birds of prey or risk her loved ones into nothing more than meals to be devoured. It is horrendously disgusting. But damn, yeah, that writing was immaculate. Oh my god, it was so good. Like, I hung on her every disgusting word. It was just masterful. Remember when we talked about Matt Shaw? I read an excerpt from one of his books. Terrible. It was just gross. Like, it's just, okay, you wrote something gross, great. Sarah Tantlinger takes you on a journey of disgust where you're like, sure, this is gross, but man, do you make it sound pretty while you're doing it? I could, like, that's a skill. That's a skill that many don't have. If you want to try extreme horror about really disgusting shit, like eating bodies of animals while they're alive, then you should try this. If you don't want to do that, that's really valid. Avoid it. But the writing, I will say, it's very good. Next is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. A lot of people don't like this, and that makes sense. I give this like a 2.5, but you might like it. Perched in the Catskill Mountains, the century-old ivy-covered campus was home until the tragic death of her girlfriend. Now, after a year away, she's returned to graduate. She even has her old room in Godwin House, the exclusive dormitory rumored to be haunted by spirits of the 5 Dalloway students. Girls, some say, were witches. Actually, you know what? No, this is like a 2. It's like a 2. It's not my favorite, but I'm recommending things that you might like. The Dalloway 5 all died mysteriously, one right after the other, on Godwin's grounds. Witchcraft is woven into Dalloway's history. The school doesn't talk about it, but the students do. Before her girlfriend died, Felicity was drawn to the dark. She's determined to leave that behind her now. All Felicity wants is to focus on her senior thesis and graduate, but it's hard when Dalloway's occult history is everywhere, and when the new girl won't let her forget. It's Ellis Haley's first year at Dalloway, and she's already amassed a loyal following. Prodigy novelist at 17, Ellis is a so-called method writer. She's eccentric and brilliant, and Felicity can't shake the pull she feels to her. So Ellis asks Felicity to help her with research for her book on the Dalloway 5. The problem is there is barely any Dalloway 5 shit in this. Like, this was a lot less witchy than I thought it was gonna be. If you like books that are atmospheric, if you love dark academia, which is really the problem, is that I don't love dark academia, and I think those of you who do will love this. But the dark academia where it's like, I'm in love with this person, but also they're kind of my rival, and sometimes I have dark thoughts about them. And the main character, Felicity, like, constantly leaves you second guessing yourself and her, and it's certainly atmospheric. So I give it a 2, but you might like it if you want sapphic dark academia that has like a narrator who you're like, can I trust you? Probably not. Also, it has a really pretty map. Next one, Devouring Gray by C.L. Herman. This is the first in a paranormal duology, which I have in fact finished, and I did enjoy both of the books. It has several main characters, some of whom are queer. Even like one of the main characters' moms is bisexual. Like everybody's just gay. There's body horror, there's possession. If you like Stranger Things and The Diviners by Libba Bray, you should read this. Uprooted from the city, Violet Saunders doesn't have much of hope. Oh fuck, it's one of those dyslexia days, huh? Hope of fitting in at her new school in Four Paths, a town almost buried in the woodlands of rural New York. The fact that she's descended from one of the town's founders doesn't help much either. Her new neighbors treat her with distant respect and something very like fear. When she meets Justin, May, Isaac, and Harper, all children of founder families, and sees the otherworldly destruction they can wreak, she starts to wonder if the townsfolk are right to be afraid. I do recommend both books. The horror is there, but and it's fun, but it's also just like a really good duology with themes of like lost loved ones and abandonment and grief and trauma and family betrayal. You know, fun things. This has a monster, and this has like a lot of twists. It's like small town. The best horror is always sat in small towns, isn't it? So if you're looking for a horror that will like unsettle you, but will stay with you emotionally because you fell in love with the town and the cast of characters, you should try this one. Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado. This is an anthology by one person, Carmen Maria Machado, and it's horror, but she does a bunch of different kinds of stories. So there's like science fiction, horror comedy, there's like some fantasy and fabulism. So it's like a genre bending, but it's horror in my opinion. And it's about women, and Carmen Maria Machado is a queer woman. So there's like, you know, queerness in the book. And it's about, in a lot of ways, it's about violence against women, but not just in like physical violence, but like in the commodification of women's bodies. So it's like it's a compilation of Machado's own short stories. She also wrote in the Dream House, which by the way is always getting banned, and I would call that a nonfiction horror book based on how it's written. A lot of the stories inside of Her Body and Other Parties are body horror, so be careful if you can't do body horror. Machado is unmatched in her ability to write. Her prose is incredible. Many of these stories have stayed with me. It's as I said, a lot about women, the treatment of women, women's bodies, motherhood, things like that. I think this is if you are looking to read outside your genre, I would try this, and depending on which short story you like within Her Body and Other Parties, then branch out to a new genre based upon that, because like I call this horror, but also it's like dabbling in other genres as well. Next one, House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. 17-year-old Iris Hollow has always been strange. Something happened to her and her two sisters when they were children, something they can't remember, but left each of them with an identical half-moon scar at the base of their throats. Iris has spent most of her teenage years trying to avoid the weirdness that sticks to her like tar, but when her eldest sister Gray goes missing under suspicious circumstances, Iris learns how weird her life can get. Horned men start shadowing her, a corpse falls out of her sister's ceiling, and ugly impossible memories start to twist their way to the forefront of her mind. As Iris retraces Gray's last known footsteps and follows the increasingly bizarre trail of breadcrumbs she left behind, it becomes apparent that the only way to save her sister is to decipher the mystery of what happened to them as children. The closer Iris gets to the truth, the closer she comes to understanding that the answer is dark and dangerous, and that Gray has been keeping a terrible secret from her for years. This is a lot of body horror, like bugs crawling out of skin body horror, and I had so much fun with it. It disgusted me, but also I was really surprised by the answers we got at the end, and also there's like a Stranger Things kind of element to it that I thought was delicious. One of the sisters is queer. Queerness is not at the forefront, but I had to add it to the list because it still counts, and it's disgusting and spooky and perfect for spooky season and scary, and I loved it. Ghostwood Song by Erica Waters. This is a YA supernatural horror set in Florida, which is on its own horrifying. This is about a bisexual girl named Shady Grove, and the synopsis says, she inherited her father's ability to call ghosts from the grave with his fiddle, but she also knows the fiddle's tunes bring nothing but trouble and darkness. But when her brother is accused of murder, she can't let the dead keep their secrets. There is not a sapphic romance in this, but Shady Grove is bisexual. There is what I believe to be a ghost gator in this. I don't feel like you need to know any more about that. That is the most Florida horror thing I can think of. If you like ghosts and family drama, ghosts that try to scare the shit out of you, like violent ghosts, jump scare kind of ghosts, but also music, you should try this. I gave it like a 2.5. Wilder Girls by Rory Power. This one I didn't love. I gave it a 2. The ending was bullshit because it just cuts off and resolves nothing nothing, but if you like endings like that, you should try it. The girls at Raxter School for Girls have been abandoned for 18 months and their bodies are mutating. This is set on an island where they are sectioned off from everybody. I think it's like off the coast of Virginia or something. So the girls are fighting amongst each other, but they're also fighting against the elements. Everybody has abandoned them. There's no help coming. They're like waiting to get better while their bodies are mutating and they're not getting better. It's scary. It's atmospheric. There's a lot of tension like with the outside elements because they try to barricade themselves in this school. There's like the outside elements that they have to be scared of, but then there's the inside elements of them fighting amongst each other. And then there's a lot of body horror because again, they are mutating. It's very scary and atmospheric and it is a little bit sapphic, but the problem is that it needed another 75 pages at least to clear up what was happening in the book. So this was like a 2 for me. That's what I have for queer horror. I was going to mention 2 more, but these are Macmillan titles and I'm not sure if they are St. Martin's. I guess I could look it up. Let's see if St. Martin's Press, because I am boycotting until they decide to address that thing that a certain employee said. It's a Wednesday Books book, so I can't talk about it. I will leave an explanation for why I am not talking about Wednesday Books book down below. Hopefully they clear that up soon, and I encourage you to go watch the video because what was said was disturbing. So yeah, not good. Let me look. I might be able to talk about this one if it's not a Wednesday book. So we are currently boycotting St. Martin's Press and Wednesday Books in particular, not all of Macmillan, but definitely those 2 until they address appropriately what happened with their employee. It is a Wednesday Books book too, so I can't talk about that one either. All right, so I had to leave 2 off the list because they are both Wednesday books. The rest of them go check out and make sure that you go tell Wednesday Books and St. Martin's Press that you would like them to address the comment made by an employee. I'll leave 2 TikToks down below explaining what happened and why we are waiting for them to address that. And sorry Wednesday Books, I wish you would just address it so I could get back to talking about books because you have put out some of my favorite books of the year as usual and now I can't talk about them. What the fuck? So okay, thanks for watching. Leave your queer horror recs down below please, especially if they are not sapphic, because obviously all of the ones that I just recommended are sapphic, so clearly I have that covered and I need to kind of branch out a little bit. So if you could leave some down below that are not sapphic, that would be great. I really appreciate y'all. Comments and questions down below if you have any. Check out all the links in the description and thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye! Before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons. By the way, I got a new mic. Hopefully you can hear me. Well, I got a new mic because Carlos stole the other mic, so I got one of these little like ball ones. Okay, sorry, I'm getting off topic. Okay, thank you to my Therapy Bills patrons, Alexander, Allie Magpie, Amba Hextress, Cami, Chris, Claire, Des Roberts, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Emperor's New Blues, Aaron, Eric, Faror, Harley, Jack and Jill, Ian, John E, Kelly No K, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Caitlin, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lex, Alice, Peggy Lou, Rain, Reese, Samar, Scarlett, Shiny, and SMK. Thank you all so much for being a friend. And last but not least, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons, and those are AM Angel, Amanda, Angelica, Anita, Artie the Ninth, Ashley H, Ava, BB, Beck, Blythe, Bookish Brainrot, Bree, Brian, Caitlin, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Cassandra, Catherine, Kathy, Chris, CJ, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Corey, Darren, Deborah, Dex, Diet Goth, Dorian, Dorothea, Ebby, Ember, Emily A, Emily L, Emma, Aaron, Ezra, Hannah C, Hannah T, Harvey Kuro, Haley, Ilianaka, India Inks, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, JT, Jen Michelle, Jenny G, Justice Sue, Jillian, Jojo Bookish, Jess Pugsley, Kaylee, Kat, Katie, Katya, Kayala, Kendra, Kylie, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura, Library of Scars, Lisa B, LP, Luciri, Luna Moth, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Marcella, Marquita, Malara, MK Books, Molly, James, Natalie M, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nyan Binary, Paige P, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Pixel Stars, Pure Raytheon, Rachel B, Rat Sarah, Reba, Rebecca, Ren, Robin, Rosie, Rowan, Other Rowan, Secoria, Sadie, Samantha M, Sarah C, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Shamed, Shanae, Shannon, Shayna, Sheena K, Sean, Sophie, Stephanie, Talia, 3 Old Dogs, Tina, Toast, Trash Can Teddy, Tito Phoenix, Valentine, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being a friend.